seeing other families get to gather and celebrate, even knowing that nobody's family is perfect. It's like, but they still get to fight. They still get to have their dysfunction, and I don't get to have that anymore. That's not fair, right? So any number of things. One, acknowledging that, yeah, any intact family in your face is going to be painful and enraging, right? So there's acknowledging that. The second thing is, this is a season where I'm going to see this over and over and over again. I'm going to see it in commercials. I'm going to hear it, holiday music in the stores. It's going to be a sensory assault of intact families, and I don't have one. Are there any places where I can avoid that, dampen that down, take care of myself around that? A lot of people wear headphones when they are out in public these days because piped in holiday music is horrendous, right? So headphones, if you have to go out, control your environment that way. Maybe this is a time where you actually stay off social media, do a social media cleanse for 3 weeks or 1 week or 1 day or whatever. We're just looking for fewer of those friction points where you have to see something that is no longer available to you. I remember probably like 8 or so months after Matt died, I had a doctor who I loved pre-death and was not as skilled as she could have been after death. But she said something like, well, it's about 18 months. And I was like, what's about 18 months? And she goes, well, it's about 18 months. Like that's what a lot of different traditions say and a lot of different schools of thought. I'm like, okay, but 18 months for what? She's like, well, it's around 18 months. I'm like, no, like what did they say is supposed to happen at 18 months? She's like, I don't know. I guess that it's supposed to resolve. 18 months is where everybody else moves on because they have lives to go back to. 18 months is where your executive function starts to come back online, even a tiny, so that you're like, oh, I have to live this. That initial rawness, not that it fades, but it's like for the first however long, like it is the sky, it is everything. And in that second year, when the whole rest of the culture and the medical model and your neighbor thinks that, okay, first year is over, you should be great by now, that's when you're like, well, this is permanent. So there's a real cognitive and emotional dissonance between what the world and sometimes ourselves, what the world and ourselves think year 2 or year 3 should look like. And then there's the reality, right? And the dissonance between those two is really challenging. One of my biggest arguments with prolonged grief disorder or the stages model is that people internalize that and they think I should be better by now. So they add failing at grief on top of everything else that's going on, right? The reality is that this is a really hard time period, right? And it's differently intense, right? So we go back to tend the organism. Are you eating? Are you taking care of your sleep? Are you staying hydrated? Are you moving your body the way that you're able? Are you looking for places of connection that help you feel stable or grounded? Are you protecting your peace? Do you know what your peace is? Right? This is true in any high intensity period. It's not just something that belongs to the second year of grief, but like holiday season, we go back to the basics, tend the organism.